Testing.
කරණීයමන්ත කුසලේන යන්තං සන්තං පදං අභිසමිංච සක්කෝජුච සුජුච සුවචෝචන්සමුදු අනතිමානි සන්තුන් සකෝච සුභරෝච අම්පකින්චෝච සල්ලහුකවුන්ති සන්තින්ද්‍රියෝච නිපකෝච අපගම්බෝ කුලේසු අනුනුගින්දෝ නච කුන්දං සමාචරේ කිංචි යේන විඤ්ඤුපරේ උපවදේයං සුඛිනෝ වාකේමිනෝ හන්තු සම්බේ සත්තා භවන්තු සුඛිතන්තා ඒකේචිපාන භූතන්ති තසවාතාවරාවා අනවසේසා දීඝාවායේ මහන්තාවා මංජිමාරංසකානුකතුලා දිට්ඨාවායේව අන්දින්තා යේච දුරේ වසන්ති අවිදුරේ භූතාවා සම්භවේසීවා සම්බේ සන්තා භවන්තු සුඛිතන්තා නපරෝ පරං නිකුම්බේත ඥාති මඤ්ඤේත කන්තචිනං කංචි ව්‍යාරෝසනා පටික්ඛ සංඥා ඥාඤ්ඤමන්
Yeah, before I forget. Testing. Hello. Good morning. Okay. For those of you who are here already, we're going to begin shortly. So just waiting for the technical side to be ready. Okay. Good morning, brothers and sisters. Thank you all for being here this morning. On a Sunday morning, on a day like this, it is one of the great opportunities to be here and to take the time to get to know the Dhamma a little bit better. Also, an opportunity for us to be in touch with the spiritual side of ourselves. Many a time we are very busy on a daily basis, on a weekly basis to get our daily routines. Some of us are working, some of us we have our own other things to do. But I think more importantly is how we live our life. And I think, do we live a life with meaning, or do we live a life with just going through the motions? So how do we do that? Coming together on a Sunday morning to remind ourselves and to remind each other about the practice is one of the good opportunities and a good time to a meritorious action that we can do. So with this, we'd like to begin our session with the Sunday Buddha Puja, which we will do together. And to begin, before we start, I'd like to invite our president, Brother Chim, to represent us in the offering of the light, flowers, water, and incense. And the offerings, as we reflect on the offering, it's important that we understand the significance. The offering of light is actually, the light represents the light of wisdom, the light of wisdom that will shine and dispel the darkness so that we can see more clearly. And when we can see clearly, wisdom arises, we make better decisions, and we also can see the nature and the reality of things. The offering of incense reminds us of the fragrance of the virtue of the Buddha and the virtue that we can also cultivate. Yeah, it's actually going far and wide. And if somebody is virtuous, it will lead us to be as fragrant as the incense. And the offering of flowers is also very significant as it represents impermanence. Because today you can see the flower is fresh, it's it's a nice flower, but the next few days the flower will eventually die and it will rot, and eventually we have to throw it away. And that also represents our life, that things are not permanent. And reflecting on impermanence is also a very important Buddhist practice. And we have also offering of water to signify the purity, of our practice. So as we do the offering, let us say 3 times sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So for the Buddha Puja, if you can refer to the Puja book, we will also have the slides to guide us. But those of you who have the book with you, you may first turn to page 8 of the book. Yeah. And I think before we begin, let us bow 3 times to the Buddha, to Dhamma, and the Sangha together. Buddhaṃ pujemi, Dhammaṃ pujemi, Sanghaṃ pujemi. Namaskara, salutation to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to him, the Blessed One, the Accomplished One, the perfectly enlightened Supreme Buddha. Tisarana, 3 refuges. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. I go to the Buddha for refuge. I go to the Dhamma for refuge. I go to the Sangha for refuge. For the second time, I go to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha for refuge. For the third time, I go to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha for refuge. Panchasila, 5 precepts. Panatipata veramani ขาปังสมาดิยามิ Adinna Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Kame Sumichchāchāra Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Musāvādā Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Surameraya Majjapamadaṭṭhāna Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Imani Panca Sikkhapadani Samadhiyami Imani Panca Sikkhapadani Samadhiyami Imani Panca Sikkhapadani Samadhiyami I undertake the training rule to abstain from killing living beings. I undertake the training rule to abstain from taking what is not given. I undertake the training rule to abstain from sexual misconduct. I undertake the training rule to abstain from false speech. I undertake the training rule to abstain from taking anything that causes intoxication and heedlessness. I undertake the training rule to observe these 5 precepts. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us now continue to pay homage to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, and also to recite verses of contemplations. Buddhanusati, recollection of the Buddha. Iti piso bhagava arahang samma sambuddho vijjacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhammasarathi sattha deva manussanang Buddho Bhagavati. Dhammanusati, recollection of the Dhamma. Swakhato Bhagavata Dhammo Sandhittiko Akaliko Ehipassiko Opanayiko Paccat Tang Vedittabbo Vinyohiti. Sanghanusati, recollection of the Sangha. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Ujupatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Nyaya patipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Samici patipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Yadidang Cattari Purisa Yugani Purisa Puggala Esa Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Ahuneyo Pahuneyo Dakhineyo Anuttarang Punyakhetang Lokasati. Salutation to the holy shrine. Vandami cetiyang sabbang sabbathane supatititang saririka dhatu mahabodhing buddharupang sakalang sada. Salutation to the Bodhi tree. Yassa mule nisinno va sabbari vijayang aka patto sabbanyutang sattha vande tang bodhipadapang yas Ime ete mahabodhi lokanatena pujita ahang pite namassami bodhi raja namatute. Offering of lights. Ghana sarappadit Tena dipena tamadang sina tiloka dipang sambuddhang pujayami tamo nudang. Offering of incense. Gandha sambhara yuttena dhupinahang sugandha Hina pujaye pujaniyang tang puja bhajana muttamang. Offering of flowers. Vanna gandha gunopetang etam kusuma santating pujayami munin Dasa siri pada saroruhe puje mi buddhang kusumena nena punyena metena cahotu mokhang puphang nilayati yatha idang me ka O tathayati vinasa bhavang. Offering of water. Adhivase tu no bhante paniyang parikapitang anukang pang upadaya patigan haptu muttamang. For the last part, as we reflect on these virtues, let us also reflect on our own actions. If you can go to page 19, there'll be the asking for forgiveness. So whatever actions that we have done by body, speech, or mind, whether intentionally or unintentionally, let us take this moment to reflect on those things, and as well as to ask for forgiveness, and at the same time to forgive ourselves for those actions that may have caused harm to ourselves and others, so that we are able to let them go and be able to move forward positively in the direction of the Dhamma. Let us recite together the asking for forgiveness verses. Kayena vaca cittena pamadena maya ketang accayang kamame bhante bhuripanya tathagata. Kayena vaca cittena pamadena maya ketang accayang kamame dhamma sandittika akalika กายเนวาจาจิตเตนะปมาเดนะมายากตังอัจเจยังคามาเมสังฆาสุปฏิปันนะอนุตตรา สาธุสาธุสาธุ Suki Hotu, glad morning, and once again, welcome to Subanjaya Buddhist Association on this morning. It is an auspicious time because this is a time for that we have all the opportunities and all the conditions that are right for us to be here. So let's take a moment to be grateful for all those conditions that has brought us here today. So this morning, we're going to have a Dhamma talk by Brother Siang Chye. Once again, he's here to continue the series of talks that talks about living a life of purpose. This is part 2 of the first one that he has done, I think, a month ago. And subsequently, I have also given a talk that is related to the topic about precious human life and the rareness of our human birth and what we can do in this life itself that will be able to be quite meaningful and purposeful. And once we can establish the meaning and purpose, and we know that we are able to live a life not just to follow the routine and to go about things as if it's autopilot, but to do it very consciously. And every day is an action and opportunity for us to to be one step closer to what we call finding happiness. So with this, Brother Siang Chye, once again, he's also our lay advisor, spiritual advisor to SJBA. He's also very active in the meditation circles where he also helps conduct, meditation sessions and also various other Dhamma engagement sessions as well. And with this, Brother Siang Chye is here to guide us through this process of understanding living a life of purpose and meaning. So with that, I'd like to invite Brother Siang Chye to deliver the talk this morning. And maybe after this, we can have some Q&As and discussions.
Good morning, dear Dhamma brothers and sisters. As Brother Nivan has said, it is actually very good and a happy time that we find ourselves in this hall at SJBA to hear some Dhamma. And Brother Nivan mentioned that, it is due to the fact that we have good causes and conditions that we are here. In the world today, there are about 90 million refugees. 90 million is a huge number. The total population in Malaysia, I think, is close to about 32 million. So 3 times the population of Malaysia make up the total number of refugees. Meaning these people are not able to stay comfortably in their homes. They've had to run away from some form of harm, some form of violence, which they want to avoid. And this includes the recently people who are running away from the recently started war in the Ukraine. So, considering that we are able to move about where we want to go, do what we want to do, eat what we want to eat, stay where we want to stay, we are indeed very, very fortunate. Out of the number of people in the world who are not refugees, not many of them are living in comfortable conditions. There are many poor people who have no access to clean water still in the world today. And we will be facing, in spite of the fact that we are getting rain every day here in Malaysia, in Selangor, there will be a water shortage in a few years' time. That means there will be shortage of water for us to drink and to use. Can you imagine that? It's hard to understand why there should be a water shortage. But clean water for us to use is going to be somewhat rare in about 1 decade's time. We will feel it quite acutely in about 10 years, the shortage of water. And down the road, there's a huge swimming pool. We cannot understand, but it will be a problem because the leaders in the world do not know how to manage resources efficiently. We can manage it, but we do not know how to manage it for the long term, for the good, for the welfare of the people in the world. So these are things which we should reflect upon. Just because we are enjoying a comfortable existence doesn't mean that everybody in the world is in the same position. I've had the opportunity to travel. I backpacked around India as a young man. I have seen the way people live. You get the Bollywood luxury. Not everybody lives like Shah Rukh Khan. You have to understand that. Many of them do not live in the same way. Many of them live in huts made of mud. Yeah. They live in huts made of mud, and it is a very, very uncomfortable way of life, which we now, we have to, as I said, can you see me? Which we now have to reflect on. So, let me, cannot, okay. Let me move on to the first slide. Yeah. No, I cannot control. It's totally controlled. Yeah, cannot control. Never mind. All right. So today's sharing, I will see how much I can get through what I have prepared, and it is a continuation, as mentioned, from the talk, the last talk I gave, which is about 2 weeks ago, and the questions I asked, for us to reflect upon, because we are now very clear in the way that we are thinking. We are rational and logical, so it's good that we think quite, give it some deep thought as to, our positions and the life that we are living now. So the first question is, what is our real purpose in life? Have you asked yourself this question? Many people just go through life without asking this question. But I would like to concentrate on it this morning. And the next question is, can I find life's true meaning? Is there actually a true meaning? Are we here on this earth to fulfill a definite purpose. Anyone has any answer to this? Do you think we are here to fulfill something, a role, a purpose? Has that thought gone through your mind? It's important, to think, because we are alive, so we must know where we are going. And are all lives equally meaningful? That means to say, am I more special than you? Or are you more special than me? Is it that you can do more things than I can? Or is it that I don't want to do whatever you are doing, in making my life more meaningful? So, these are the important questions that will guide today's sharing. Okay, next please. And I have put this up as a kind of as a kind of a wake-up call regarding our existence. Oh, there is no animation. Anyway, the important thing is we ask ourselves this question: at the end of our life, what would you like to be remembered for? When you live, 70, the average lifespan of a Malaysian person is 76.5 years. I think I mentioned that the last talk. Most of us on the average will live about 76.5 years on this earth. So in that time, of course, some people live slightly longer, and there are those who live shorter lives. There were young people here who got to the age of 16 and then passed away. Quite young. This boy only managed 16 years of his life. But a lot of us get to about 70 to 80. So when we come to the end of our life, it's a question that is very, very relevant. What would you like to be remembered for? Or is your memory, or is the memory of you going to go up like dust in this world? Once we pass away, some people will, of course, come to the funeral. Our friends, our relatives will come to the funeral. Then they will say nice things about us. 49 days later, they will have a ceremony, do some charity. And then after that, is the memory of whom we were going to just go up like dust, like smoke. When we boil water, like steam, the steam come out of the kettle and disappear. So, which means that our existence here has got no significance, no consequence. It did not do anything. So people will forget us. People who are related to us will remember us for a while. Especially if you leave them some money and inheritance, they will remember you. So make sure you leave money behind, right? But after they spend that money, too bad. The better still, you leave them some debts. Then they will surely remember you, because you have to pay off their debts. Then they will not say nice things about you, but surely you will be remembered. Is that the way we want? And will the world miss you when you are gone? Like so many people in the Ukraine, they get bombed, they get shot. How many of them will be missed by others? Have they played significant roles in the lives of other people? If they haven't, then some bomb lands on them and you get a statistic. Gone. Finished. Habis. And that's it. People will just remember them as one of the many hundreds of thousands who were killed in that war. So for myself, Brother Tan Siang Chye, I hope you will remember me when I'm gone. In some way, right? Due to the work that I'm doing, I hope, people will remember. But I am not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. So it depends a lot on what we set out to do. Now, what do we want to do so that people will remember us kindly? People will remember us in a good way and say that so and so really helped me, did some good for society, did some good for the world. Next, please. Oh, okay. So, I mentioned some of this in the last talk. And this has got to do with what are the realities in our life. Firstly, as Buddhists, we do not accept that there is a great plan for all living beings. Other faiths believe there's a plan, yeah, and there is a person, this powerful person has a plan for everybody. And we have to fit into this grand plan, which has been devised by somebody that we cannot see. Yeah, so there is a belief, there is a faith, yeah, that you or the believers of that religion, yeah, that they do their part in this grand plan. But for us as Buddhists, we don't accept that there is a grand plan. There is this, plan for every single living being. Yeah, that is not a natural or a logical idea for Buddhists. Yeah, and so, in a way, it's free for all. It's very open. What is the purpose? Yeah, there is no great purpose, for us living beings. We can do whatever we want. We can live life the way that we want. Whether we want to have a useful life or whether we want to have a useless life is totally up to us. So human beings usually live their lives according to their desires to survive. That means not die. Yeah. That's why there are so many refugees, because they run away because they don't want to be killed in the violence, yeah, of their home country. So they run to other places. And if they are lucky enough to have a good life, human beings just want to enjoy the pleasures that are available. I work very hard, so therefore I must enjoy. Yeah, life is good. Everybody is enjoying. I also enjoy. That is a natural way for people to think. Let me just get through my life. Yeah. So, but there is a certain reality which we cannot escape, which we have to look straight at it. That is, all beings are subjected to birth, old age, and death. And in between birth and death, we have different experiences of suffering as well as enjoyment. There are people I have met, I work with a lot of Westerners. So one among them, his name is Peter. Yeah, I think he's still alive. He wasn't that young when I worked with him. I asked him, Peter, one day when we didn't have many things to do, it was a relaxing downtime. I asked him, Peter, what do you think about death? I wanted to know his view of death as a Western man, as a Westerner. He said, no, I don't think about death at all. I don't want to think about death. Please don't bring up the subject. Because when death comes, I will just drop down and die. It will just catch me running. That means he doesn't want to give it any thought at all. When it comes, it comes. Before it comes, don't tell me about it. Don't talk to me about it. I just want to collapse and die, and that's the end of my life. So I thought, it is not a really clever way of looking at something that is sure to come. It's sure to come because there has never been a single living being born that has not died. So it is 100% sure. Yeah, you are not 100% sure of your bonus or your increment. You're not 100% sure, but the only 100% sure thing is death. And here is, somebody I know very well who didn't want to think about it. So I'm not sure whether a lot of Westerners think in this way. Yeah, but there are some who have given it very, very deep thought. So we learn also that enjoyments do not last and suffering is quite continuous. And whatever we enjoy, we go on holiday. Now, because the world is trying to wake up from the pandemic, you can travel to some places, not all. And there are people now traveling to the West, to have a holiday here and there. You can enjoy yourself, with traveling and seeing new things. But there is still the lingering thought that something will happen, which is why when you go traveling, people advise you to buy insurance. Because even as you enjoy, now we had one of our SJBA friends, he went to Australia and he got into this accident and he had to stay how many weeks in the hospital, end up paying a few 100,000 ringgit for his, treatment in the hospital. Yeah, I saw him during the last full moon. Was it full moon? Yeah, he was here. So you can never tell. What I'm saying is, you have to prepare for the worst. In life. That's why we buy insurance. We save money, etc., etc. So much effort goes into seeking enjoyment and avoiding suffering. Next, please. So let us understand this clearly. We have no common purpose. There are people here who are very, very deep thinking, like you, who come on a Sunday morning to listen to something meaningful. But when you think about it, your relatives, your friends, when you invite them to come here on a Sunday morning, most of them are not interested. So thank you, congratulations, for spending this time to hear something which you can think about very deeply. So we each have our own purpose. That's the important thing. The whole world is not going to agree on a common purpose. No matter what some other religionists will say, we don't have a common purpose. We can choose to work for others our whole life, or we can choose to indulge in our senses the whole life, do all kinds of good things, or do all kinds of bad things as our purpose. There is no real clear purpose. Next, please. So let's, I hope I can, this box of words. Yeah, this is what my late teacher, the Venerable K. Sri Dhammananda, used to say. Yeah. The important point about life is that we have it. And therefore, we must make the best use of it. So we are, according to late Chief, this is how he taught. We are here as people. We are here as human beings. So as Buddhists who learn from late Chief, we must make the best use of our life. Don't just be non-committed. That means don't just sit there and wait for things to happen. Late Chief said, you must go out there and do some good things for yourself and others. This is the great value. This indeed is the great value of life. Many people, many people lead narrow, unhappy, and depressed lives because they do not try to make the best use of their life. They have no idea. I mean, that is also the truth. Many people are not engaged in thinking about their lives. Many people just want to survive. That is the truth also. So they do not know how to make the best use of life. But there are others who are very lucky like us. We have choices to make. We can make our own choices. What we want to do, where we want to go. So when we have the choice to make, let us make the best choice for ourselves. This is the teaching of late Chief. And he worked till almost the last day of his life, until he fell sick and he couldn't do any more work. He had to be taken to hospital where he spent a few days and then he died. But before he was taken to hospital, he still wanted to work for the good of other human beings, other Buddhists, people who would like to learn something about the value of being alive. We have made it up to this age. Not like some people, as I mentioned, they just died when they were young. Do you know, I heard in the news in the UK, there was a young girl, 8 years old. Somebody ran into a house and shot. Somebody was chasing another person with a shotgun. And the person being chased ran into this little girl's house. And the guy with the gun also followed him, tried to shoot him, shot the little girl, 8 years old. Beautiful little girl in the UK. And she died. Just like that. She's not involved in their fight. But because this guy ran into the house, another man followed and shot at him, missed the first man, and killed this 8-year-old girl. So what can you say about that? We just do not know what will happen in life. Okay, next please. Except that we have to make the best use of it. I introduced this person twice before in my talks. I found him quite fascinating. His name is Dr. Viktor Frankl. He is a survivor of the Holocaust, meaning he, due to his race, he was taken by the German Nazis and put into a concentration camp. There were many concentration camps where Hitler, the leader of Nazi of Germany, the whole of Germany actually, wanted to get rid of all the Jews in the world, Jewish people. This Hitler hated Jews. So Hitler had a purpose. His purpose was to kill all the Jews in the world. He of course, didn't manage to kill all of them. He hated them so much, he just wanted to get rid of every single Jewish person in the world. But he managed to kill 6 million of them in the concentration camp. What an achievement. Surely that's why we remember him now. But I'm sure you don't want to be remembered like Hitler. So this man, he was a doctor, neurologist. He was separated from his wife and his daughter at the concentration camp. And he said, because he's a doctor and a scientist, he watched people in the concentration camp. Some of them very quickly died. Within a few months, they just died. And some of them, they survived. They survived the many years in this concentration camp. And when the end of the war came, they were released. So this doctor was wanted to understand, why is it that some people survive and some people just die on their own? And he found out that the main differentiating factor was purpose. Do you have something to live for? And he concluded that those people who survive are those people who have something to live for. They just wanted to live in order to fulfill a purpose. But those people who went there, they were put into this very terrible, you can see in the small picture, up there. They live in those kind of conditions, not enough food, having to work, and they were experimented on. Yeah, I don't want to tell you what kind of experiments. You will not be able to eat your lunch if I describe to you what the German scientists did on this group of people. But most of them were put into the gas chamber. They released the gas, and these people died in the gas poisoning. So it was a terrible time. But Dr. Viktor Frankl, he survived. He survived because he wanted to see his wife and daughter again. His idea was that they were still alive, and he must keep himself alive so that he could meet them again. But at the end of the war, he found out that both had died quite early during the going into the concentration camps. Quite sad. But he began to teach, and he said, when a person can't find a deep sense of meaning or purpose, they distract themselves with pleasure. And I find that this is quite true. When we don't have a sense of purpose, when we are not dedicated to doing something for ourselves or others, most of the time we will think about what we are going to enjoy. Doing something important is not that, will not come up very often. So as you can see in this world, many people don't have a sense of purpose. Their idea is what to enjoy, what to eat, what can we eat. As Chinese people like to plan, what to eat. And before that meal is finished, they will plan what to eat for the next meal. Yeah, they will discuss. I have this friend, he said, let's go and eat this beggar chicken, which is 30 kilometers away. So we drove 30 kilometers to eat the chicken in the clay, don't know what. And then it was very, very nice. And then on the way back, we started talking about, even before getting back to KL and PJ, we had to discuss what to eat next. We're already planning. So that goes to show there is no great sense of purpose. Not like, late Chief. He had a great sense of purpose, what he wanted to do for the Buddhist community. So, this is something which we have to take note of. We can see our friends, our relatives, are like that. I'll tell you a story also of this young photographer that I met while I was still working. I invited, or my staff invited this young photographer to come and talk to my students. So he told us that he was born and brought up in KL. So he was a member of the Bangsa crowd. Bangsa crowd. He would hang out in Bangsa, drinking coffee and talking about the next new car to buy. Then, for many months, he was sent to Afghanistan to take pictures. He was a news reporter. And he said in Afghanistan, he could not imagine, because the war, Russia had gone into Afghanistan to start a war at that time, many years ago. The Russians have all withdrawn. And then after that, the Americans came in. He saw so much suffering in Afghanistan that he had never imagined could happen. So after about 8 to 10 months, he returned to KL. And he met up with the friends again. And I asked him quite directly, were you the same person after that? He said no. He would listen to his friends, all chit-chat, about the next share to buy, how to make a little bit more money. And all he could think about was the amount of suffering that he had seen in Afghanistan. He said, when I asked him, he said, I am a changed man. Yeah, he did not feel comfortable anymore drinking coffee in Bangsa. He was there physically, yeah, but yeah, all he could think about was real suffering that he had seen and he had photographed, yeah, as a professional journalist. So things happen to people to change the way that they see life. And hopefully, we can understand life better without having to go to experience or witness so much suffering. Next, please. Yeah, next slide. Okay. So, what is life's true purpose? This is what concerns us this morning. This question has been asked throughout the ages for a very long time. Ever since man settled down and became, in a way, civilized. Yeah, and I guess the first people to really talk about this question were the Greeks. You know, the Greek civilization? Yeah, they were actually the first. Because from the Greek civilization, many philosophers and thinkers came out of their civilization. So they ask this question quite a lot. What is the purpose of our lives? So human beings, as I said, like to get through one year to the next. Just, okay, we celebrate Chinese New Year now. We look forward to the next Chinese New Year. We don't really think about what is the important thing to do, as a human being. Most people do not value their birth as human beings and are clueless about a purpose in life. We think that it is our right to be a human being. Actually, to be a human being is very fortunate. It's not easy to be a human being. To be a human being that is complete also is not easy. Complete meaning having all your faculties. Yeah, to be able to see, to be able to hear, to be able to think properly. Yeah, there are people born not complete. Something is missing in their body or in the mind. Something is missing. So in my family, there are also people like that. Yeah, people who are not complete. They are born with some kind of deformity. So now that we are complete, born complete, and we can live our lives very well, we should give some thought into what we can do as a human being. So, the people who recognize their purpose and work to realize it are special human beings. There are these wonderful human beings that we remember. Of course, not like Hitler, who wanted to kill all the Jews in the world. Yeah. And many of them are remembered for this. Of course, some have pursued a humane cause. That means they wanted to help people, but some have chosen to make people's life more painful. That was their purpose. Their purpose was to bring more suffering to people's lives. So we, here as Buddhists, we must have the wisdom to differentiate between good and evil in our life. Next, please. So let me put to you this proposition. Shall we think about it clearly today? The purpose of life is to have a life of purpose. It's a play on words, but shall we take it more seriously? That in our life, we must have purpose. We dedicate ourselves to a purpose. We don't just survive year after year after year, from one Chinese New Year to another Chinese New Year, from one birthday to another birthday. maybe we should be doing more to change the nature of human existence. Next, please. So here we are. I just did some very quick surfing, on the internet, and I picked up a few people whom I think live a life of good purpose. Their purpose were felt by many, many thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people, such as Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, and Venerable Master Thich Nhat Hanh. Their goodness have touched the lives of so many people and helped them to have improvement in their lives. Isn't it wonderful, to help people in this way? We can be feeling a deep sense of satisfaction and contentment, when we do this. Next, please. And these are the not so great human beings. Quick search, and I got these 4. Actually, there were many, but I chose these 4. The first one is Genghis Khan, great conqueror. He conquered more than half the civilized world at that time. He was so successful, he ended up on the doorsteps of Rome. And Roman civilization at that time was one of the leading civilizations. He swept away the Romans very, very easily. But as he approached Rome, he decided to go home for some reason. Because if he had conquered Rome, today's world will be very, very different. But he chose not to. He just went home after that. But on the way, he killed so many, I would say, millions of people. As he conquered the known world, many, many people, very, very many people died. His army was super efficient at killing. So that was the purpose. And we remember him as a conqueror who killed so many people. Adolf Hitler, as I mentioned, there is this man called Idi Amin. Do you remember him? I'm not sure if you do, especially if you are young. Back, please. He killed about 500,000 of his own people in Uganda. When he took power, anyone he was suspicious of, he killed them. He just got rid of them. And the total number was about 500,000. And the last person is the Pol Pot. He was responsible for the killing fields in Cambodia. He killed his own people with his army, the Khmer Rouge. So the exact number is not known, but it was a lot. He decimated, I think, almost half the population of his own country. Imagine that. He killed. And when you go to Cambodia, you can see, when you visit those museums, you cannot imagine that one human being want to kill so many other human beings. Even if, let's say, us, we accidentally kill one other person, we will feel very, very bad and very, very sad. But this guy, he killed millions of people in the modern age that we can still remember, that I can still remember. So why do people do this? Why do they have so different purposes in their lives? This is an important question for us to think about. Right, next, please. So, a lot of people say, my purpose in life is to be happy. I'll really be happy when. So, there are those who say, I will really be happy when I earn 10,000 ringgit a month. Some people will say, hey, my target, now I'm only earning about 4,000 ringgit a month, 5,000 ringgit. I want to make it to 10,000 ringgit a month, then I will really be happy. And many people I know, when they hit 10,000, they want to hit 15,000 after that. They are not satisfied, because maybe there are rising costs in living, they just cannot be satisfied. So we very quickly raise the bar. We go on to, if this I achieve other things. And so we go on chasing. We are always chasing something to make us happy. And that could be the purpose, but this purpose is not clear. We are always chasing that purpose. We don't have a purpose, but we are chasing the purpose. Next, please. So as I said, human life is very rare. And in this sutta, the Buddha explained that if you take a look at the world, the oceans in the world, there is so much water covering our earth. I think it's about 75% of the world of this planet Earth is covered by water. Is it 75%? I think it could be even 80% of the world is water. And the Buddha said, if you take a hoop, a rounded, some kind, it looks like a hoop. Actually, the Buddha said it is something that goes around a cow's neck. You throw it in the water and it floats. And there is a turtle that is blind. The turtle cannot see. And the turtle will swim here, swim there because it's blind. And it will pop its head up of the water to breathe. What are the chances this blind turtle will pop its head exactly into the hoop that you have thrown into the sea? Is the chance great? No, the chance is almost impossible. That's what we have done, dear brothers and sisters. We have achieved the impossible by being born complete human beings. To be born as a complete human being, before we die in the last birth, we cannot have our minds cannot be dominated by strong greed, hatred, and delusion. If in the past birth, before we die, there is strong greed, strong hatred, and strong delusion, the chances of all we being born complete, body and mind, is very little. But it would seem that when we pass away in the last birth, we had little greed, little hatred, and little delusion. So it is a great thing to do. We must congratulate ourselves to be born complete human beings. And some human beings, just to give you an example, I've been thinking, and I discussed it with my wife and my friends. There are some people who say to a very, very close friend or person, I never want to be separated from you. I always want to be with you forever. And there are these people born as Siamese twins. They are born together. The body is connected. So be very careful what you are wishing for. If you say I never want to be separated from you, these two not separated. So the wish that we make has to be governed by wisdom, by intelligence. Because the next life, you might get what you want, and you might never be separated from the person you have promised to be always together with. This is the nature of our mind, making wishes, wanting something very, very badly. So, coming back, we are manusia, Malay word manusia. Yeah, mana ussa. Mana is mind, ussa is can develop. That's how the Buddha explained. We are having minds that can be developed. So we can develop the mind knowing that we are in a unique position as human beings. There are so many other beings in this earth that we cannot see. You know, you go and dig the earth outside there, there will be thousands of worms and insects under the earth. In the bottom of the sea, the scientists have found there are thousands of millions of different versions or different kinds of life. One man asked me, yeah, during a talk, brother, shouldn't it be that human beings, there are so many, there are about 9 billion, 7 over billion human beings. Yeah. Maybe, you know, when we die, another human being will come because the population is increasing. Isn't it 1 to 1? One human being die, another human being is born. I said, excuse me, brother, it doesn't mean that one human being die, another human being is born. It could be that all these things we cannot see. It is their karma to become human beings. They are also in the other worlds, such as the ghost world or the hell worlds. Yeah, maybe those beings are now coming up to be born as human beings. And in those worlds, the population is very, very great. Huge populations in those worlds. So that's why human beings are increasing. Because over there is a loss. So here there is a gain or profit. There's a gain in the human world, right? But that doesn't mean that they are in a position to understand correctly the true nature of the world. So we have this opportunity. Next, please. So late chief also said, as human beings, we must have an aim in our life. A person who does not observe a righteous way of life will never find the aim of life. He can even become a danger to society if he does not uphold some noble principles. No doubt, scientists and psychologists have widened our intellectual horizon, but they have not been able to give us the purpose of life, which only noble principles can do. So late chief, his take on it, his understanding was that if you are a good person, you will have a good direction in life. It's important. As I showed you, there are people whose purpose was not to help others, but to make other people suffer. Okay. Next, please. Right. So let us come to the end game. Let us set our sights. This is a sight where people look at to shoot a target. Therefore, our true purpose as Buddhists, if we consider now, the question is, what do Buddhists want to do? What is the purpose of the Buddhist life? Is to actually practice the Noble Eightfold Path. Breaking it down into simple terms. The purpose of our life must be, number one, avoid that which is evil or unwholesome. Number two, do that which is good or wholesome. Number three, purify our mind. These are the three things. This is our purpose as human beings. If we want to follow the teachings of the Buddha, there are only these three things done to a high standard, not a normal standard. So we have to avoid the evil things slightly, even those slight ones that will disturb others. So we avoid doing things that hurt others, increase the suffering of other people. Number two, whatever we think is good, let us go and do it. If we can help others, if we can donate, if we can give our service to others, to make their lives more comfortable and more rewarding, let us think about doing it. So if we, let's say, we can donate money, we can put our service, let us try and do it. And number 3, let us purify our minds. That means in our minds we have these disturbing qualities, unwholesome qualities. We think thoughts, we have directions that is very strong in greed, in anger, and in delusion. Let us try to purify it. Let us try to be aware of it so that we can manage it, and not let our the defilements take over our lives. Because when we do not do these 3, when we don't know how to regulate our lives, we will be unhappy. And when there is a great unhappiness in our mind and in our lives, it will grow, it will strengthen. And when it strengthens, this unhappiness, it will lead to depression. We have to be very aware of it. If we don't know how to be happy, if we don't know how to direct our mental and physical energy, direct it, that energy will be static in our mind, in our body. It doesn't know where to go. It will stay down. It will move heavily, like heavy. It will move down. And when our mind moves down, not knowing how to be happy, depression will set in. The World Health Organization estimated that in 2020, 2 years ago, 1/5, 20% of the world's population are now, it's been proved true, 20%, 1 in every 5, will be, and now it's being seen, clinically depressed. Clinically depressed doesn't mean you feel sad for 1 or 2 days. Clinically depressed means your energy level does not allow you to live your life well. You have to seek medical treatment. So 20% of the world's population is now in this category. There's so much money being spent trying to treat these people out of their depression. Because if they remain depressed, they will waste away. Their life is wasted. So this is an important point for us to consider. I have shared a lot with you. And I hope you are able to follow the direction of my presentation. I would like to stop here at this point and perhaps continue for session number 3, if you find that interesting. But at this point, would you like to ask any questions? The subject is rather serious, but I believe that you can understand it. And even our audience out there, I believe that it makes sense to you, to have a purpose, to live for something, to be remembered for something, when we come to the end of our life. Right. Any comments or questions?
Yeah,
Anyone?
brothers and sisters, we can ask questions.
Or you can
now.
comment.
Yeah.
We have this discussion. Yes, sister.
Hi, Brother Sanchai. Thanks for your sharing. My question is about the life purpose. As a human being, you will have your life journey. You will go through child, adult, parents, then grandparents. I'm sure the purpose of life will change during this entire journey. How do you make it more meaningful?
Mm.
Like what you shared earlier.
Mm-mm.
That's my question. Thank you.
Yes. Well, it's I perfectly agree with you. Let me tell you the story of Achan Brahm. You know who Achan Brahm is? He's a very very popular. He's actually English, British, but he lives in Australia. Yeah, and he said when he was around 16, yeah, he loved football. Of course, many British people love to kick this ball around. And he was playing football all the time. And then his teachers and his parents told him, "You got to stop playing football because you have to sit for your O levels. Your O levels are like SPM." So he being a good boy, he listened to them. He stopped playing football and he studied very, very hard. And his O level results were very, very, very good. Right? So they said to him, if you get good results, you will be happy. So he believed them. He studied very, very hard and he got good O level results. Yeah, and he was very happy. And then his relatives said, but there is still some more. You have to sit for A levels. So Achan Brahm said by that time he was not chasing football, he was chasing girls. He said, I was not born a monk. So he was so involved in, being sociable, but he believed his parents and his teachers, and he gave up that part of it, and he studied, and he did very well in the A levels. So he thought, oh, see folk saya, I got good results. And then they said to him, now you got to go to university. And then he said, oh, then he started to wake up a little bit, but he still listened to them. He didn't go to any old university. He went to Cambridge University, one of the best universities in the world. And he studied very, very hard in the faculty, which the chairman of his faculty was the late, now his name, the scientist who could not move. What's his name? He was bound to wheelchair. What's his name? He was paralyzed. Huh? No. Young man. Not that young. A few years ago, he passed away. What's? Huh? Yeah, Stephen Hawking. The chair of his faculty was the great Stephen Hawking. You can imagine that. And Achan Brahm, his name was not Achan Brahm at that time. He passed with first class honors in this great school, that included some very, very famous scientists and physicists. And then they said, okay, first class honors is great, but now you have got to get a job, you got to get married, you got to buy a house, you must start. And then it all kept on going, and he said, when is it going to end? Right? And then he discovered Buddhism, and he started meditating, and he said that it looks like when he took a look at his friends, it will never end. There is always something, you're always chasing something in your life. You must get this. When you got this, there's another one, and you're always trying to satisfy the desires. So what you're saying is right. It changes from time to time, from stage of life to stage of life. But it is the important decisions we make as adults. Now when we are in this condition that we are very comfortable, we are not actually, we are not short of anything. We can decide what we want to do as our purpose. And there can be many purposes. As I've shown you, these people just now, the four great personalities, it can be very, very different. The purpose can be very different. But whatever it is, whatever is our purpose, we must find satisfaction and happiness when we have finished doing it. Let us not like those people, once they have achieved their purpose and they have killed thousands and millions, they had to run away to avoid justice. Some of these people, like Pol Pot, when there's a change of government, he was arrested by the new government. He thought that the government can never change. But it changed. Other people took over. They remembered him for killing so many. And they arrested him and put him in jail. I believe he was put on trial. But he subsequently has died. Yeah. And it was not an easy death. People like Hitler, he had to shoot himself. Because he lost the war, and understanding that he lost the war, he would be the people who won the war, the winners of the war, would come and get him. So before they came to get him, he shot himself. Quite an easy way out. Although he made so many people suffer, one bullet ended. But that doesn't mean that suffering has ended. According to Buddhists, he will be born somewhere where he will pay for inflicting so much suffering and pain on other people. So now that we are here, and even as an adult, when we understand certain things, we might have a purpose. And when we understand more, we will have a different purpose. We might change our purpose. So like Ajahn Brahm said, when he discovered Buddhism, the teachings of the Buddha, his purpose was to become a monk. So it changed from graduating with first-class honors from Cambridge University. His purpose was now to escape from suffering as a monk. So this is what he's doing now in Australia. He's teaching people how to be happy and to escape from suffering. So different times, different. The more we understand, it might change. The more things that we learn, the more our wisdom grows, the purpose also will change. Thank you.
We do have time for one more question. Anyone? Yes.
Hi, Professor. Hi. I recently watched the YouTube of Venerable Chief Priest. His Dhamma talk a lot. He has a lot.
Sri Dhamma.
And one of that he actually, I also try to understand about life. And the way he put it, quite interesting. I find it quite humorous sometimes. He said in life, like what you just explained just now, it's a journey of suffering. When we are born in this world, they are always suffering.
Sorry?
From the day that we are born in this world,
Yes.
they're full of suffering actually.
Yes, yes.
And he says, people will ask where is hell and where is heaven. A lot of people will point down as hell, and a lot of people will point up as heaven. And he says, of course, if you don't believe, if you think hell is down there, if you dig down to the earth, you will cross and probably ended up in America lah. He's not ended up in hell.
Yes,
so very interestingly he put it. My question is that he said in our life, our whole life in this earth, we actually experience suffering. At the same time, we make ourselves, we contain ourselves as sometime in part of our life in hell and some part of our life in heaven. So can you probably, I try to understand more on that, because can you probably help us to understand further on what he is trying to explain in this aspect?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. I think what the late chief was trying to say is that as human beings, we have a very unique ability. So, as a human being, we can understand a lot about the other existences. So this is what the Buddha explained, but we cannot see the nature of other living beings because the places where they exist, we don't have the ability with our eye and our mind. We don't have that ability to perceive them. You know, we can see each other because we are solid. Yeah, we have different compositions of the elements. What are the elements? There are 4 elements. One is the hardness element, which we call earth element. Then we have the wind element, the extruding and the contracting. The movement is the wind element. When you see, as we are sitting here, it's like a balloon, the air in the balloon. When you blow in the balloon pump, isn't it? That is the air element. So for us, the air element keeps us sitting upright. If there is no air element, or we disconnect the air element, is a strange thing. The air element is connected to our mind. This upright. Scientists and we learn in the school, we are kept upright because of our skeleton and our muscles. True, yeah, there's a skeleton and there's a muscle. But there is one energy called the air element, the wind element, that pulls us up. If somebody hit us on the head, we become unconscious. The air element goes to sleep also, so we collapse. So if you take a look closely, this wind element is keeping us like that, like a balloon, pop up. And when we move, it is that wind element. Then there is the temperature element, the warm and the cold, and there is the water element, which is the cohesion element. Water is the cohesive energy. By that I mean that as we grow older, we lose a lot of moisture. And when we lose moisture, our flesh and our muscle become lembek, become softer and softer. Because less water. Our skin becomes dry. Why? Because less water. So the nature of the water element is to stick everything together. So as we grow older, we realize that everything becomes soft due to the water element going off. Yeah, and when we are old, you can see the ability to hold muscle and flesh and skin really is very, very poor. So these are the 4 elements. And we can see things, the other beings we can see that are like us are animals. Because their composition, ratio, and proportion is the same as us. There are these ghosts. Yeah, we just finished the 7-month Chye. We can't see those guys because they have very little earth element. They have more wind element. So we can't see them. But I can tell you, some of my teachers can see them. Yeah. And I used to have a friend whose daughter, he's Catholic, but the daughter can see them also. You can say, "Oh, Daddy, there's somebody at the front door." And the daddy would panic. "Keep quiet, don't tell me anything." Right. So there are these beings which the human world can understand. Why can they understand? Can we understand? It is the nature of our mind. Because from the human world, we can also go there. Have you ever had a very close family member be admitted to hospital? Go into somebody you love very much went into the hospital. And then you wait at the hospital, but the doctor said, no need to wait, you better go home and rest. If anything happens, I will phone you. So you go home and rest, but you are near the phone or your mobile phone. Suddenly the phone ring and it is the hospital's number. What is the state of your mind? How is your mind at that time? It is full of anxiety, isn't it? Worry, anxiety, yeah, and fear also. This is the hell world mentality. It is painful. It is a painful mind. So, if we inflict this pain onto others, when we pass away, we will go to those places where all those people there have this mentality. And painful, it is painful. And not only are they painful in the explanation by the Buddha, it is so painful that they die. And upon death, the karma brings them back to be born like that again. Can you imagine? Pain, pain, pain until you die. But you cannot die because you are born like that again. Then pain, 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 and then die. And then karma breaks. It is a very terrible place to visit. Yeah. So in our minds, that's why I say the purpose is to avoid this nature of the mind, to bring this pain, the mental pain, to other people. Because those who give that pain will have the pain come back to them. Yeah. It's a terrible state of mind, to have that existence. On the other hand, there's another group who enjoy themselves very much. So if you like to eat something, I'm not sure, maybe you like to eat some dish that is very nice, and then when you eat that dish, there's a great enjoyment in your mind. Yeah, that enjoyment experience is what the Deva experience. You call them gods or deities or angels. Their mind is like that. They like to enjoy all the time. So we can understand it. The mind of a Deva, we can understand. The mind of a hell being, we can also understand. What is the mind of a ghost? The ghosts, we call them hungry ghosts. We call them hungry ghosts because they cannot find satisfaction. They always want something. So when you are not satisfied and you cannot be contented, the mind is like a hungry ghost. When you are attached and you cannot let go, the mind is a hungry ghost mind. And when you die, and when we die with that wanting, cannot let go, I must have, that must have, that greed take us to the hungry ghost. So can you understand? Yes, their mind is like that. If you can talk to one, they will tell you, I cannot get enough to eat. Hungry ghosts are always hungry. I cannot get enough to wear. Whenever I go anywhere, people chase me away. No place to stay. So they go stay in those broken down house. Sometimes the trees, they will stay in the trees. This is hungry ghosts. They are very, very miserable creatures or beings. Very miserable. So we can understand them. And because we understand the mind of these beings, let us try not to go there mentally. But we can be human beings. What is the mind of a human being? The mind of a human being is directed at work. Human being nature is to work. Work for good, work for bad, is your choice. But human beings, even when you want a cup of coffee, you must go and buy the coffee, boil the water, and make the coffee, then only can drink. Some people tell me, you know, the devas, the angel beings, they want a cup of coffee, boom, appear in front of. No need to work, no, they just imagine, and the thing appears, especially the higher devas. There are 6 deva realms. The higher 2, there is no work. They just lie there, pop, the thing appear. And they don't have to eat also. There's no eating in those worlds because they just think, I want to be full, and they are full already. Whereas the lower ones, they really have to eat. Deva food. So that's what late Chief Reverend wanted to explain. We can understand this. And as a human being, we can work. We can work towards becoming Arahan. Or we can work towards joining those miserable people in the hell world. Where you want to go? What do you want to do? What is the purpose? Now, this is what the question is today. Right. So I hope that gives you some. Late Chief, sometimes you have to listen very carefully, you know, because his thinking is so deep. Sometimes we cannot catch straight away. But when we keep on thinking, we can understand him. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, first of all, Brother Siang Chye, for that very, I think, insightful and inspiring, and I think timely kind of reminder for all of us, because in life we are very busy with our life, and every day is pretty much the same. Then we are looking for what is the next thing to enjoy. But what if we have an alternative to looking at life differently? And I think this today, thank you, Brother Siang Chye, for that reminder. And thank you for the questions, because through the questions, we also have a deeper reflection on that area that has been spoken about. So, so with that, we'd like to bring the session to a close. My personally takeaway is it reminds me of the talk that I gave last time, where we talk about the Dhammapada verse 182. Rare is the birth as a human being. Hard is the life of mortals. Hard or rare is the hearing of the Dhamma, and rare is the appearance of the Buddha. We have made it. We have succeeded, and as what Brother Siang Chye said, we have done the impossible to be born as a human being, complete. We are fortunate also to not have too much pain physically. We also have the rare opportunity to listen to the Dhamma, which not everybody has. And rare is the appearance of the Buddha. We are born in this very fortunate time. So with that, let us rejoice. And to do that, let us turn to page 103 of the Puja book that will help to guide you in the Patidana or dedication of merits. And I think before we chant it, let us you can bring up the slides for that. Before we chant it, it's also good to know what it means. The practice of dedication of merit is a very useful one, personally, I find, because one thing about, if you do, what do you mean by dedication? Dedication means you've done something good, that you dedicate it. You just, reach out and tell somebody, hey, this is something good. Why don't you also rejoice? Why don't you so be happy about it? That's called dedication. That's why when you write books, there's a page called dedication. So that's what you dedicate to. And the first one is to dedicate to all beings of the inhabiting space and earth, the devas, the nagas of mighty power, may they rejoice. Then we also dedicate to all the beings, all the spirits, all the devas. And if you look at the next page, we continue to dedicate to our relatives, whether they are living, they are departed. We also dedicate to parents, teachers, friends, relatives, ghosts, and all that. And finally, we also dedicate it to ourselves, for that we remind ourselves to never follow the path of the foolish, to only follow the way of the wise, and until we find that is actually in line with what Brother Sanchai spoke about, having a life of purpose. Okay, so when we talk about life of purpose, in this case, this is what we can do. One of the good practices we can do. So let us do the dedication of merits together. Go back to page 103, where we will chant the verses in Pali together. Akasattha cha bummattha deva naga mahiddhika punyang tang anumoditva chirang rakhantu loka sasanang chirang rakhantu desanang chirang rakhantu mang parang Tawata cha ammeyi samphatang punya sampadang sabbe deva sabbe satta sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya Idang me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Imang no punya bagang mata pitu nanca acarya nanca sabba satta nanca sabba mitta nanca sabba snyati nanca sabba peta nanca sabba Devatananca bhajema Imang no punya bhagang Sabba sattanam dema Sabbe satta sukhita hontu. Let us make aspirations on page 105, where we make an aspiration to be on the path of Dhamma, to be on the path that will be of purpose, to leading us on to finally liberation. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yavanip Panapattiya idang me punyang asawakkaya wahang hotu idang me punyang nibbanasa pacayo hotu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us pay respects to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Buddhang pujemi. Dhammang pujemi. Sanghang pujemi. Sukhiyotu, we have come to the end of our Buddha Puja service. May all be well and happy. May you be blessed, and we'll see you again next week, yeah, for the next learning Dhamma engagement session. Good day.
Bahong sahan semabhinim mita sayudantang ngirimi kelang udita Sase